Here's a strange fact about a company you have probably been in. In 2024, Primark sold jeans for £8 a pair. Not discounted, not clearance. The regular shelf price, the kind of jeans you actually see people wearing. And that same year, Primark made over £1 billion in operating profit. Compare that to ASOS. ASOS spent roughly £290 million on marketing in a single year. It had 20 million active customers across the world. It reported a loss. Primark spent near zero on advertising in its home markets, sells nothing through a website you can buy from, and made £1.1 billion in profit. Primark's operating margin in 2024 was 11.7%. The average UK clothing retailer runs at 3 to 5%. ASOS, Boohoo, and most of online fast fashion have spent recent years either losing money or barely breaking even. Primark, with no Instagram ads and no next-day delivery, sits at 11.7%. When people encounter this, they tend to assume one of two things. Either the margin comes entirely from paying workers as little as possible, or the £8 jeans are a loss leader. Primark sells them at cost and makes the real money on everything else in your bag. Both of those ideas contain some truth, but neither of them is the mechanism. The mechanism is something more structural, and once you see it, the £8 jeans stop being a mystery and start looking like exactly what they were designed to be. To understand how this works, start in Dublin. June 1969. A man named Arthur Ryan opens a shop at 47 Mary Street and calls it Penny's. Ryan was 33 years old, working on behalf of the Weston family, the dynasty behind Associated British Foods. The idea? Fashionable clothes at prices that ordinary families could afford. But Ryan's version of that idea was more radical than it sounds. He was not thinking about a lower advertising budget or a slightly cheaper supplier. He was asking a different question. What is the minimum a garment needs to cost if you strip away every overhead that does not actually need to exist? Not less of each cost, none of them. The business grew. 11 stores across Ireland within 5 years. Then a legal problem. The American retailer J.C. Penney obtained a high court injunction in England. The name Penny's was too close to J.C. Penney. In June 1974, the chain became Primark everywhere outside Ireland. In Ireland, it is still called Penny's to this day. Arthur Ryan ran the company for 50 years, until his death in July 2019. By then, revenue was already over £7 billion. The thesis had held for half a century. But it only holds if you are genuinely willing to make a deal with yourself about which costs are truly necessary. Primark made that deal in 1969, and it has never changed its mind. That deal, over time, settled into 3 specific choices that shape everything else about this company. Here is the simplified version of what it costs to make an £8 pair of jeans and get them onto a Primark shelf. Primark does not publish garment-level cost data, but the structure is legible if you look at the pieces. Start at the factory. Primark sources from 880 factories across 500 suppliers in 26 countries. China is the largest single source, with over 400 factories on Primark's own global sourcing map. Bangladesh is second, with 132 factories. A pair of jeans made in Bangladesh might cost somewhere between £2 and £3 at the factory gate. We will come back to the wages that make that price possible. From Bangladesh, those jeans travel by sea, not by air. Sea freight costs roughly 1/6 of air freight per container. The journey takes up to 10 weeks. The total process, from design to shelf, takes approximately 9 months. Primark does not need speed, it needs cost. By the time those jeans have arrived at a UK distribution center, cleared customs, and reached a shop floor, the total landed cost might be somewhere in the range of £4 to £5. On an £8 ticket price, that is a working gross margin of roughly 40 to 50%, not unusual for retail. In most retail businesses, that gross margin gets eaten by operating costs, marketing, digital infrastructure, returns processing, customer service teams. At Primark, those costs are, in large part, structurally absent. That is not an accident, it is the architecture. Primark's business model is built around three deliberate absences. Three categories of spending that every other major clothing retailer treats as fixed costs, and that Primark has chosen, systematically, over decades, not to incur. The first is advertising. In its home markets, Primark has historically run near zero above-the-line advertising. No television campaigns, no billboards, no paid search. The low price is the advertisement. When you sell a pair of jeans for £8, customers tell each other. Primark is Britain's most recognized fashion brand without spending what its competitors spend to get there. The second is home delivery. Former CEO Paul Marchant said it plainly. Home delivery on low-priced goods is very difficult and probably impossible to make profitable. He was not wrong. A standard last-mile delivery in the UK costs between £3.50 and £7 per parcel. The cost of processing the return of a single £5 item runs to approximately £6.50. An £8 pair of jeans cannot absorb those numbers. The margin disappears before the item reaches the doorstep. The third is returns handling. Free postal returns in clothing e-commerce run at 30% or more of all orders. Processing them costs retailers hundreds of millions a year. Primark offers exchanges in-store. No free post returns. 3 zeros. No advertising, no home delivery, no postal returns. At £8 a pair, these were not optional choices. They were arithmetic. Remove them and the business works. Keep them and it does not. Arthur Ryan understood that before the internet existed. The structural savings from those 3 zeros create the conditions for the model to work. But they do not, on their own, explain £1.1 billion in operating profit. For that, you need the other half of the mechanism, which is scale. By the end of 2025, Primark had 473 stores across 17 markets. In the UK alone, commissioned research suggests 2.3 million people visit a high street specifically because of a nearby Primark, every single week. Primark holds a 6.7% share of the entire UK clothing market. That makes it the country's single largest apparel brand by volume. This scale is what converts an 11.7% margin on an £8 item into £1.1 billion in operating profit. The model cannot work at 50 stores. It cannot work at 100 stores. It requires the kind of footfall that only a dominant price point can generate. And inside the store, the £8 jeans are doing a very specific job. They are not the most profitable item in the building. They are the reason you walked in. Once you are there, you buy socks, a £5 t-shirt, a £15 pair of trainers. The individual item does not need to carry the margin. The basket does. Primark's Birmingham flagship is the world's largest fashion store, 158,892 square feet across 5 floors, confirmed by Guinness World Records. It includes a hair salon and a Disney cafe. Nobody comes in for jeans and leaves in 3 minutes. They stay. And the longer they stay, the more the model works. Behind the scale is a supply chain most customers never think about, and that Primark has spent 50 years making almost invisible in its cost impact. The process starts approximately 9 months before a garment reaches a shelf. Buying teams in London and Dublin design the ranges and place orders. Contracts go out to factories across 26 countries. Everything is committed in advance, in large volumes, on fixed terms. There is no ability to reorder quickly if something sells out faster than expected. You plan, you commit, you ship. This is exactly what makes sea freight viable. 10 weeks of transit time is a long time in fashion. But when you have planned 9 months out and ordered in bulk, 10 weeks is a savings, not a constraint. Approximately 130,000 containers move through Primark's logistics each year. The discipline of planning this far ahead is itself a form of cost reduction. There are no last-minute air freight bills, no emergency restocking runs, no reactive price adjustments, just predictable volumes moving on schedule, at the lowest possible landed cost. When the margin on each item is thin, predictability is not a nice-to-have. It is the entire financial model. The supply chain trades speed for cost. In most of modern retail, speed is considered the point. For Primark, speed is the thing you give up so the jeans can be 8 pounds. There is a number that does not appear anywhere in Primark's income statement, but that is embedded in every garment on every shelf. It belongs in this explanation, and it deserves to be said clearly. In Bangladesh, the minimum wage for garment workers was raised to 12,500 taka a month in January 2024, the first increase since 2018. At current exchange rates, that is approximately 89 pounds a month, or roughly 1,070 pounds a year. The Clean Clothes Campaign, an independent labor rights advocacy group, estimates that figure at 38% of what would actually constitute a living wage in Bangladesh. It is important to say, this is not unique to Primark. H&M sources from Bangladesh, Zara sources from Bangladesh, Next, Marks & Spencer, and virtually every major UK high street brand sources from Bangladesh. The labor conditions in Bangladeshi garment manufacturing are an industry-wide structure, not something Primark invented. But being one of many participants is different from being unconnected. The factory gate price that allows an 8-pound pair of jeans to land in the UK at a cost of 4 pounds or 5 pounds rests, in part, on that wage. Primark's operating profit in 2024 was £1.1 billion. That is the equivalent, in scale, of more than 10 million Bangladeshi garment worker monthly wages. What each person does with that is their own business, but it belongs in the same conversation as the £1 billion profit, not the footnotes. In November 2025, Associated British Foods announced it was reviewing whether to separate Primark from the rest of the group entirely. A demerger, planned before the end of 2027, with Rothschild advising, that would make Primark a standalone publicly listed company for the first time in its 56-year history. The new CEO, Owen Tong, who took over in March 2025, is expanding the store count across Europe and the United States, completing the rollout of Click and Collect across all Great Britain stores, and building a digital presence for the first time in the company's history. Step back from the language and look at what Primark actually is. It is not, at its core, a fashion business. It is a logistics and property operation that happens to sell clothes. Its competitive advantage is not design, not brand narrative, not digital reach. It is the ability to move very large volumes of planned inventory through very efficiently run physical stores at very low overhead. Arthur Ryan opened a shop in Dublin in June 1969 with one question. What is the minimum a garment needs to cost if you remove everything unnecessary? 56 years later, the answer is still 8 pounds, and the annual operating profit that question generates is 1.1 billion pounds. Whether that represents a triumph of supply chain engineering or a symptom of something more uncomfortable about the way the world makes and distributes cheap things, that is a harder question. Both readings are simultaneously true. That tension, perhaps, is exactly what makes Primark the most revealing company on the British high street.